What's your favorite scary movie? Hey, man.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Well, I'm Pennywise the dancing now.
We're gonna get you.
Oh, Lord on the beast!
God, don't do that.
But sometimes death is better.
Hey everybody, what's up? KillJoy Jake here. Welcome back to the third episode of the KillJoy Jake podcast, where today we are talking about VHS Viral with Bloody Breakdown with Bran. Bran, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, actually. I'm gonna wear with a badge of honor that I have been invited to the less than savory VHS. So I'm here for it, man.
After your amazing performance in Red Right Hand, I had to have you on here. I just figured it was perfect. It's too perfect. You're amazing at ripping on things. So
It's interestingly enough, that's what I do on my other channels when I'm not doing the horror movie stuff, is essentially riffing. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. So I'm really excited to get into this. I said this in the last podcast. We took a week off last week, but we're back this week with VHS Viral. I definitely feel like this is the weakest entry from the VHS franchise, but there's still a lot to love, which we're going to get into in a second here, while also critiquing it and well, making fun of it a little bit. So just right before we get into this, though, I do want to say Bran's channel is phenomenal. Make sure to subscribe to Bloody Breakdown with Bran. Go subscribe, get him to 2,000 subscribers. Guy's amazing. Love your channel, man, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yes, dude.
I've been watching your stuff for a while now too. I'm really enjoying it. And by the way, we were on the topic a minute ago, Red Right Hand needs a sequel. I'm waiting.
I'll tell you this, man. We're coming up with ideas right now. We kind of got an outline of what we want to do. But nothing set in stone like right now. What we want to do is, it's going to cost a lot of money, so it's not going to. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to come out anytime soon. But hopefully,
right.
Fingers crossed. But just getting into this, just jumping right heading into this movie. I figured just to start off with this, we'll talk about the framing device, which is kind of like the first thing we see with this movie. It's called Vicious Circles. I think it's what I've talked about in all my other VHS podcasts so far, is that typically the framing device for these movies are like the weakest part, in my opinion. But this one's pretty cool, I think. Bran, what was your thoughts on like the framing device, what we keep cutting back to throughout this movie? What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think that the weakest overall VHS film probably has the better of those type scenes, because I feel like a lot of the other ones are just so very predictable. Like, you kind of know from the very first frame of it how this is kind of going to play out. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one was a little bit more, definitely unpredictable, but it takes you on a completely different ride than what you're normally accustomed to. I think most of these are normally like confined to one area. This is pretty much all over the city. It's a little bit less predictable. And, it's like I said, I think it may be the overall weakest VHS, but those sets of scenes that bring it all together, I think they're an improvement over some of the others.
I agree. Typically I just said, typically the framing devices for these movies are they're in one place. It's just kind of, you can see where it's going. People trapped in a creepy apartment somewhere, they get killed. It's the exact same thing in the first two movies. VHS 94 is not bad with what they do with their framing device, but this is definitely the strongest, surprisingly. I love the kills too in this one. There's the one where the guy gets stuck to the back of the truck and his feet start hitting the concrete and all the blood. It's an awesome kill. It's great.
Love it.
Yeah, no, this one is definitely one of the strongest framing devices of the entire series so far, for sure. I think it's a little, it is a little odd, how the ending, especially. I don't know how you want to do this, but I kind of just talk about the entire framing device, then we'll just get into the skits. How do you feel about the ending? Because I have some mixed feelings about it. I'm just curious what you think.
I feel like these movies, at least in my opinion, have never really had super strong endings. Like I guess you could argue some of them were pretty decent, but on the whole, I've just never really been like over the moon about a VHS ending. That's not really where its quality lies, and there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, you can look at a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street, and the entire movie is just amazing, but that ending just it kind of leaves a little something left to be desired. But I mean, it just kind of fits in with the rest of the franchise for me. I honestly can't say I was going into it looking for an over the top awesome ending. So it didn't really phase me. But I guess my overall criticism would be of this and any other VHS is the ending could definitely use a little bit of improvement. This one left a lot to be desired for me, just like the rest. It seems like a good setup for an ending, if you get what I'm saying, but it just something's not clicking for me personally.
Because it's cool that like his girlfriend or whatever, she like gets kidnapped or brainwashed, whatever, from the cell phone thing. Like, cool concept, honestly, for framing device, all in all. And the ending, it's like, oh, something crazy is gonna happen. Like, it's all this buildup, and then nothing really comes from it. You know, it's like you see the city on fire a little bit, and you're just like, what the hell's going on here? You know, I wanted a little more like. I thought everyone was going to turn like, you ever read Stephen King's Cell or see the movie? Like it's kind of the very similar concept to this.
Right. Yeah.
Where it's like everyone gets a message on their phone or something. They turn into zombies. They start killing each other. I thought it was going to go that route. Like, because, we have this theme throughout the framing device of like people trying to get a video to go viral. So I'm thinking, what if it's the opposite of that? Like your phone giving you a literal virus that makes you go crazy and kill people. I thought that's where it was going. And we don't see that in action so much. We kind of just see this ice cream truck going around the town killing people and sending out a crazy signal. I don't know. It feels like a bunch of really cool ideas mixed together and none of them get fulfilled, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. It's like who's behind this ice cream truck? There's no one in there by the time it's parked. Is this some type of paranormal thing going on here? If so, have they not used someone else the way they use the main character and the main female character as well in this movie? I don't know. I have questions. It just feels like to me it always has a setup for another scene or two, but
I feel like I have too many questions with this one, if that makes sense. Like I like how some of the VHS skits end where it's like, okay, that was interesting and I want to know more, but like this didn't grab my attention enough to want to ask those questions. It's just like, okay, you just gave me a mess of a whole bunch of different crazy scenes and some of them were cool, but I never felt like anything was fulfilled or anything. So it's fun. I mean, overall thoughts on it though, before we move on to like the first actual skit though, Bran?
Just as overall as far as the ending is concerned specifically, is that what you mean?
like just for the entire framing device, what we
just the framing device. Gotcha.
Yeah, well, like just last thoughts on it, I guess.
Sure. Overall, I just say I think that if this movie does deserve like a real gold star in some area, I think it, despite me totally taking a dump on the ending just now, I say that about almost all of these. But I think that's the area in which this movie probably shines comparatively to the others. Yeah,
no, I would agree with that. This is definitely the most creative framing device that they have throughout any of these movies. Because VHS 94, my one criticism of it, which I'm going to talk about next week, is that, like the framing device, they kind of just go right back to what they were doing in 1 and 2. And at least this one tried to do something creative. I will give it props for that. But it doesn't go anywhere, which is unfortunate because it's cool. It feels like another skit, essentially, but it doesn't go anywhere like some of the cool skits we get in the movie. So it's unfortunate. But moving into the very first actual skit of VHS Viral is Dante the Great, written and directed by Greg Bishop, who also directed the 2016 VHS spin-off movie Siren, which is based off of that one skit from the original VHS with the girl who like gets her face split open. Have you seen that one, Brandon?
Right. Yeah. I haven't seen Siren yet. I've been meaning to. I was actually gonna watch it before I saw 94. I wanted to kind of binge them all, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But you know what? I'm open to a lot of these movies having their own kind of spin-offs. I'd love to see more like that.
Oh, I agree. There's some of the skits in these movies I feel like could be their own 90-minute film because like there's some really cool creative ideas in all these movies. I feel like at least all these movies have one really, really good skit. I'll talk about the next one is the one that I particularly like a lot. But Dante the Great, it's fine. I haven't seen Siren either, so I know diss towards Greg Bishop. He's I'm very excited to see Siren eventually. It's a great concept that he's working with there, but I was not too big of a fan of Dante the Great. I think it's easily one of the weakest VHS skits. But Brandon, what did you think about it? I don't want to shit on your opinion before I say
No,
it.
no, you're good. This one for me can be summed up into I guess the best way to put it for me would be like, so much potential in this idea I don't think was really well executed. You don't really see this much in a horror film or a horror short, the utilization of stereotypical magician style magic. So I was kind of intrigued by that right off the bat, like, oh, okay, this is something you don't really see every day. It's not the norm. I'm here for it. And I kind of dug the idea of the cape and whatever abilities it had. But I just feel like, once again, it was an execution thing. Like, really good idea. Like, when whoever sat down and actually came up with the treatment for this thing, that was its peak. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
great idea, not so much on the execution.
I agree. I think the concept is strong here, but my biggest problem with it is just how they frame it. Like it's like in a documentary style, which once again doesn't feel like a VHS skit. Like I wish this was just a found footage, like it would have taken place in like within an hour or something of like a behind the scenes of one of his shows. You know what I mean? And you're like seeing like what he's doing to people after his like amazing, like, how is he doing this? And then you go into the back and you find out, oh, it's because he kills people and sacrifices it to the cloak or whatever. Right. That would have been so much cooler, but they frame it as like it's a real documentary on something that really happened. And that it kind of loses some kind of luster. There's not as much mystery behind it with that, if that makes sense.
Right. Like, they had the perfect setup with the tapes of him making these sacrifices so he can have the cape's magic. Like, you have that good setup there, and those clips are used so sparingly. Yeah. To instead rely more on like what looks like evidence footage and a police, like you said, a documentary about this. So what setup, yes. Execution, no.
Yes. No, I 100% agree. It has some problems. Like one of the big, also just like plot wise, I feel like it has some problems as well. There's towards the end, we get like this fight scene between Dante and his like assistant character. And the entire time I'm watching this, it's filmed in found footage style. Who the fuck is filming this? Who is filming this and not like calling more police officers? Like Dante kills like 6 or 7 SWAT members and someone's still just standing there filming this. I would be pissing my pants running away as far as I possibly could. But no, some dude with like the biggest balls I have ever seen in my life is just filming this whole thing. I don't know. It's weird.
Somebody once told me that they thought it was supposed to be a body cam of one of the slain people, but I'm like, it's moving. Right. Like, you can clearly see that the camera is handheld and moving. So
now that would be cool if like it was a bot. Okay, I never even thought about that. That would kind of fix this whole third part of this skit for me. If it was like from like a slant angle of a dead body or something and you're just watching the whole fight scene unfold, that would be sick. It would have to be a one take, which would probably be harder to film, but that would be sweet. Yeah. That's a great idea.
I think the person who told me this was just hoping against hope, honestly, just digging to try to salvage, because this person, by the way, contests that this is the best VHS film. So you'll have that.
That's an opinion. That's an opinion you can have, dude.
I guess.
I guess, man. There's some creative stuff in this skit. Like, there's some cool scenes, but man, it's definitely of what I've seen, because we were just talking earlier that there's another skit that was deleted. I thought it was weird that this movie only had 3 skits and that there was an entire scene or an entire skit that was deleted for the movie, and I guess it's on the DVD of it, which I personally have never seen. I actually just ordered the DVD on Amazon for I'll be honest with you, I was Christmas shopping for some of my friends, and I had to get something for myself, and this is the only VHS movie I don't have, so I just bought it. I'm gonna watch that skit though. Brand, you're telling me that it's silent. There's no audio on it.
Well, there's some score, if I recall correctly, but there's no dialogue in the film or in the short whatsoever. The best I can tell after watching it, it seems as if there is some sort of I guess like a cult or a group that is trailing what I'm assuming is a serial killer. But when you watch it, you'll honestly see why the thing was cut. Even more so than the other. Like I don't think there's a single bit of found footage element to it at all whatsoever. Like I said, being completely without dialogue, you can kind of see why it was cut. But at the same token, it's a little bit shorter than the others as well, too.
So maybe it's like because this one and how you're talking about that, it just seems like they're both underdeveloped. Like it seems maybe that they didn't get the gist of the VHS franchise. Like maybe they hadn't seen the other ones or something, because it just doesn't, neither like how you're describing that one and the Dante the Great one, they just don't feel like they fit into this franchise whatsoever. Like it seems like it'd be a cool like side movie or something, like if you wanted to do a doc style movie on a magician who has a crazy cloak or something, cool, but it just doesn't fit in this series for me personally.
Right. And there are parts in this film that do seem like VHS to me, but those two, which I mean at this point, even if you're including that one as part of the film, that's already 50% of the shorts in this movie that don't feel like they belong in this movie. So
it's a big problem. It's probably the biggest problem with this movie. I still think there's a lot to love here. Like I think Dante's performance is pretty cool overall. Like I got to give him credit. Like I think he sells it as the crazy Chris Angel type magician or whatever, you know, but
I also love that he was white trash too before becoming a magician, because being from South Carolina, I have met a couple of Dantes. So that part was a nice little icing on the cake for me too.
That was very accurate, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yes.
Nice. Yeah, no, that is actually a stronger scene in this one where he's like doing the magic tricks for his buddy and he messes it up. Yeah, no, that was cool, and to see him like get this cloak somehow, and then suddenly he's like, oh, I can do all these magic tricks. Yeah, no, it was cool. It has some strong parts to it. It just I think it does fail in execution, especially in the latter half of it for sure.
Right.
Do you have any last thoughts on this though, Bran?
Just for me, if anyone out there is watching who wants to make an entire film or a short regarding magician style magic and not screw it up, I would be very grateful for that, because that's something that got me interested and then just completely didn't execute. So that would be fantastic.
I agree with that statement. I like that, because there's so some cool stuff. Yeah, it's executed so weird in a way I just don't like, but I do love the idea of a magician who really like has to kill people to perform real magic. It's cool. It's a cool idea. Just not executed well. Yeah, no, I concur with that, Bran. But moving on into, and make fun of me all you want, but I believe Parallel Monsters, written and directed by Nacho Vigalondo, is the writer-director's name. Honestly, one of my favorite VHS skits. I think that concept alone, this one is so cool. It deals with the multiverse and like how different things can be in other dimensions and how that can just really fuck up your day, as our lead character here learns. I really enjoyed this one. Also, just real quickly to comment on the writer-director, his name is Nacho. I'm just going to refer to him as Nacho because that last name is it's tough. I'm not good at pronouncing stuff, Bran.
Same here.
Yeah. He wrote and directed a movie called in 2007 called Time Crimes, which this one, his skit in VHS deals with like alternate dimensions and like moving sideways through time, but he actually made a movie about it's a slasher film that deals with time travel. So he's clearly interested in like that whole kind of subgenre of horror, which is cool. I've never seen the film, but it has a really high score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is why I'm interested in seeing it. Getting into Parallel Monsters though, this one I personally really like it. Like I said, I think it's very different and creative with just the concept alone. Bran, what did you think about this one?
This short does not belong in this movie.
Yeah.
It feels like VHS 2 to me for some reason. I don't know why. I can't really put my finger on what exactly it is, but it really feels like this movie or this short should have been a part of VHS 2. I love this. Easily for me the best short film of the entire movie. It's intriguing. I like horror that plays the suspense long game, and this one for a short film to do that and do it like actually really well, I enjoyed that. And it, once again, once the ball has officially started rolling, it doesn't stop. It's got a really amazing ending, just an overall cool story, and just intriguing from the very first frame. So yeah, it's my favorite out of all of the shorts in VHS Viral.
Oh, I totally agree. It's like I said, it's definitely one of my favorite VHS skits. Concept alone, and then the suspense. Yeah, the suspense, man. Oh my god, you start off and it's just kind of like, it's pretty chill. You know, the guy lives with, like, he's got a wife, he's got a nice setup and all that, and then his he creates this portal to another dimension parallel to his, as the title would suggest. But it's very different, as he learns quickly that the people there are not quite people. What
No.
what was your first indication that something was fucked up in the parallel universe, besides the fact that you're watching a horror film?
Right. I hit play. I'm trying to think back on what exactly was like the first thing, honestly, that really unsettled me, because it's weird for me, because as soon as he goes through the door, I was automatically unsettled. Like you said, because you know where we are, you know the environment we're in. But like the one thing I guess that really tipped me off, one of the things that caught me off guard was his wife in his dimension, or his universe, seemed so toned down in what we saw of her. So whenever you do see the new wife here in this other dimension, she automatically gives off a different vibe. Like for me, that was it. Like I don't know exactly what's going on here, but she's a part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. That's a really good point, because I like where my head goes in this skit is like talking just all about like the creepy imagery and stuff. You get like the bag of organs and stuff in the living room, and like the two guys that like are there for some reason. You're like, what the hell's going on? But that's a really good point, because immediately one of the first things that our main character runs into is the other version of his wife, and she's just acting so different from how we saw her literally 5 minutes ago. She's a completely different person, and it's like, okay, like that's expected from a parallel dimension, but like she's kind of still, it's like weird. It's uncomfortable. You're automatically uncomfortable the first time like
Right.
they have a conversation together. His name is Alfonso. I have that in my notes. There we go. I'm like, wow, I am completely forgetting this. But yeah, I think that one of the coolest things about this skit is that you're maybe thinking that it's like, okay, maybe they're like they're pagans or something. They're part of some kind of like crazy cult or something. No, they're demons. They're demons with like these messed up snake-like genitalia that's horrible. They run outside and they're like in this little park or something, and the guys just whip out these like alien dicks or some shit.
Like what the fuck?
What is going on in this scene?
It looks like the thing chasing Kirsty at the end of Hellraiser. Like, that's what it looks like. Some type of demon phallus. We're not really sure.
Some kind of Cenobite penis or some shit, right? Yeah,
I'll say one thing though about one thing in this universe, this demonic universe, that I think is an improvement over our current universe, is the punishment for domestic abuse.
Yes. 100%. Like they're totally fine with like eating organs or whatever, and then like whipping their demon penises out at the park, but domestic abuse, hell no. The punishment for that is death.
You get Venus flytrapped.
Right. That is a really interesting thing. Like it never really stops with what I'm trying to say, I guess, is like there's so many differences between the two dimensions. Like it is nonstop. You're rolling with learning about this other dimension and how wildly different it is from ours. And I think even to the last beat, like you were saying, like we literally see that through the portal, like when our Alfonso makes it back to our dimension and he's closing the portal, you see that happen real quick. Like his wife kills the other Alfonso, and then the portal goes down, and she says something like, "I must, you punched me, so I'm killing you now."
Right.
Domestic abuse. It never stops with the mystery aspect either. It's suspenseful all the way through. Like the whole time he's like trying to get downstairs and stuff, you're just like, you're tensed up. It's done really well. I really like this one. But then the ending. But Bran, the
Oh,
ending is so
yeah.
upsetting. It's almost kind of silly and fun, you know, for a while. It's a little suspenseful, but then it gets dark at the ending. What did you
Right.
think about the very end of this though?
It's one of those things for me. Like anytime you see something, and like anything that you would personally consider like I'm a little uncomfortable, you know, I automatically wait. You know what I'm saying? I wait. I'm not one of these people that goes, yep, can't do that. I'm moving on. I wait and kind of see where they're going with everything, just to see, is the story good enough to even warrant, you know, doing something like that? Like, is the art good enough? I think in this one it is. I think it's a good story that's being told, but yeah, it gets dark and it gets really uncomfortable toward the end of this thing. But overall, I mean, is that, in a manner of speaking, that's what a lot of these movies are out to do, to make you uncomfortable.
Yes.
So yeah, once again, ending included, I gotta say this one is the main reason to own VHS Viral. Like, I don't care if you have it downloaded. I don't care if you have a physical copy of it. This should be the main reason in having it.
I agree, man. The ending of this one, yeah, it's disturbing. I think it's really interesting because he thinks he's safe. You get this false sense of security, and then he gets stabbed in the chest multiple times by his wife, who thinks he has a demon penis. I love it. I think it's really genius writing. It's obviously a tragedy for our Alfonso. Yeah, I just love the last line of my notes is like, I just love the law about the domestic abuse. So funny,
Yeah.
very darkly funny. I love this skit. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I say that when it ends so horribly. But Bran, do you have any last thoughts considering this one? I once again, I do want to say I completely concur about this one being the best skit in this movie, and it's definitely a reason to own this one and to check it out.
Yeah. Overall, like we were talking earlier about certain of these shorts actually having their own film, this is one I would actually enjoy seeing.
Yes. Almost like a 90-minute version of this, but instead of them like trading universes at first, like maybe they like develop a relationship or something. The two Alfonsos, you're slowly learning about the other universe kind of, and you're getting like some weird vibes, but then they switch universes and then it just all goes to hell in the third act.
All right.
That
Yeah,
would be kind of sick.
The door shuts, you know, how do you get back? There's unlimited possibilities out of a story like that, I think.
Oh yeah. There's so much you could do with that. That would be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, that could be a franchise onto itself, honestly.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's interesting enough to make an entire franchise out of, especially because like with alternate dimensions, it suggests that you wouldn't have to explore the same dimension every movie. Like you could have a character who's going to different dimensions every single every movie in a franchise theoretically, and then like experiencing some different kind of fucked up shit from a different creative mind. You know what I'm saying? That'd be kind of sick.
The quantum leap of horror. I'm here for it, man.
There you go. Yeah, there's so much you could do with that. I love it. Yeah, that's sweet, man. Yeah, I also wanted to say that one was clearly probably one of the most difficult VHS skits to film, because you really only have like two main characters who are playing two different characters that are technically the same character. So I got to commend both our main actors and actress here for giving a wonderful performance as two characters who are technically the same. So
Yes,
that's how
you can't leave out the two demon penis gentlemen as well.
Oh, you're right. They gave a good performance as well. Yeah. Demon penis gentlemen.
Can you imagine the like what's the process like that to get hired for that? Like what is okay, so you're gonna have to wear a rather large demon penis prosthetic. Like
imagine that being like your only movie credit. You're like, oh yeah, I'm demon penis guy number 2 in VHS Viral. You know, it's just like I'll take it over nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's something.
It's a credit to the old IMDb page. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Wherever those guys are, you know, I hope they're just living life. I hope they're doing good.
Yeah.
Okay, one last thing on this, and I swear to God, I'll move on. But like, do you think they kept the wieners?
Oh, if it was if it was on the table, like if they were like, yeah, sure, you can have. I'm taking it.
Oh,
if
yeah.
I'm in their shoes, yeah, I'm taking that. Hanging that up on the wall.
I was just gonna say, I'm hanging that up on my wall like some big game I hunted or something. You know? Yeah. No. That would be sick. But yeah, like we both said, this is easily the best one. But moving on to Bone Storm, that is frustrating for me personally. Written and directed by Justin Benson, who is now going to be in charge of the new Moon Knight Marvel series, which is kind of interesting. What did you think of Bone Storm, Bran?
I feel like I'm not as frustrated with this one as I am the first and the skit that was actually removed from the film. Those frustrate me a little bit. Great Dante and the extra, they frustrate me a bit. This one is probably my second favorite. But on the other hand, there's not like a lot of competition. Let's say that. So despite its second place ranking for me in this movie, it definitely left a lot to be desired, I think, in the same way that Dante the Great did. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think that this is some fantastic idea, but once I saw what they were doing, it was another thing where I felt like it probably could have done better. This idea isn't a lost cause, but you know, hey, it's better than two of the others. I'll give it that.
I don't think I could have said it better. Yeah, it's definitely the second best. But it could be so much better is how I feel about it. Like, there's some cool things here. There's some, like, the skeletons that are like that they're smacking apart with the skateboards and stuff. It's cool, but your characters are just so unlikable. I mean, they are such dicks. Like, it's tough to watch these guys throughout the whole runtime. But you're almost not rooting for them, you know?
Right. I mean, it's like, okay. So let's go pick me up out of sophomore year in high school, and let's see if I'm someone you want to root for, because that's what they did in essence. They put like 16, 17, 18-year-old boys or whatever out here and gave them the personality of said characters. So it's just one of those things. Like, it's like the Halloween resurrection of VHS Viral. I don't care about any of these characters. They could all die, live, whatever. I'm not invested.
Yes. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just like, if I liked these characters more, I would be like in suspense, feeling like kind of freaked out with this ending. And I would say it kind of accomplishes that, but not as much because I don't like the characters. You spent the whole first part of this skit introducing these like horrible characters that are just dicks to everyone, really. And you don't, like, because of that, you don't have any sympathy towards them when they actually start getting attacked, when they go to Tijuana and they're just getting attacked by all these like demons or whatever, cult members that are, what are they trying to do? Like, bring up some demon, like, or something with the blood.
Right.
Yeah, there's lots of questions with this one too.
Right. I will say one thing though. I think if this type of short or film in general exists, it's probably better that it is found footage, because thinking about this movie being filmed in standard terms sounds way worse to me.
Yeah. Yes. I also think that with the found footage aspect, you have a lot more opportunities to have like scares and different, like, really like scary scenes, because like when you are filming something from like POV, like POV shot like that, it has this level of suspense that I feel like you don't get from just like typical, like, filming a movie with typical cinematography, because
Agreed.
you are forced to be in that person's shoes that way, and it's scary. Because of that, it's almost effortlessly suspenseful. But it could have been done better, because if you would have set this thing up like your typical movie where you're introducing characters and you're not falling in love with them, but you're liking them. You're like, oh, I like these guys. I would hang out with them. I would not hang out with these guys. They're total dicks. No.
I would avoid them at all costs, like cross the street type thing.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree. I have a few notes about this one. Like, I think it does have some cool stuff. Like, there's the blood that lights on fire is pretty cool. I think it's a little like the CGI.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like, it's cool. There's like this one close-up shot on one of the skeletons where it's like its teeth are chattering or something. That's fun. Right. You know, like, there's a lot of fun moments here, and I think it could be better. And that's why I think I'm so frustrated with it. I always get really frustrated with things that could like have the potential to be great, but they're not quite there. Like, how do you feel about that, Brain?
No, I totally agree. That's one of the reasons, like, going back to Dante the Great, this one, I have similar feelings toward it because like anytime you can present me with an idea that really is appealing, and I'll get pretty hyped about something like that. Like, wow, I haven't seen something like this, or you know, whatever the situation may be. So whenever I see an execution of something like that, and it's not even that it just, doesn't quote unquote make my standards. It's just that it's flat out disappointing, like in whatever metric you want to use. That's one of the most frustrating things to me.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. It's, man, that's how I feel about this whole movie. It's just like, it's so close to being another good installment, but then it's just not quite there, which it's frustrating because of that. It's you're like, damn, this could have been another great VHS movie, but they just kept pumping them out one after another every year. It's like it's almost like if they would have just given this another year to like figure itself out and develop it a little more, like it would have been a better sequel.
Right.
It's just unfortunately not quite there, and kind of killed the franchise for a while until this year, thankfully. So.
Right. It's something you definitely have to be aware of, because I mean, like, even as financially successful as like Paranormal Activity or Saw films were, I mean, there's no doubt the longer they went year after year, annually making these films, that there was a steady downgrade in quality.
Yes.
So I guess it's one of those things where they figured this may not be hot long. Let's jump on it while we can, but it's never a good idea to do it.
And like, because you have basically 3 or 4 different film sets going on with this movie, opposed to like your typical horror movie where it's like it's just one long story. This is like most of these movies are 4 to 5 stories of like a framing device and then 4 skits. With this one, I feel like they literally had to cut an entire skit because it didn't come out the way that they wanted it to. If they would have just given it one more year, like I feel like if you take 2 years on this one instead, because like they rushed these out one after another. When the first one came out 2012, next one's 2013, this one's 2014. If they would have given it another year, I feel like these ideas could have been more developed, and then we would have gotten a much better movie. But it feels a little rushed, especially the Dante the Great one and Bone Storm, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. Like you said, and that other short, it was cut so close to the deadline. It barely didn't make it into this film. So it just kind of goes to show you how things were probably not exactly running like a well-oiled machine behind the scenes.
Right. Okay. Now I haven't seen Gorgeous Vortex. I wish I'm sad that I haven't, honestly, but where do you think this would fit into the film? Like, because like typically they layer their skits out, like the first one's typically really good and the last one's really strong. I feel like how these movies are typically set up. Where do you think this one would go if it was kept in the movie?
Somewhere in the middle, honestly, second or third, because it's harmless, but it's you may watch the entire thing and not even realize you've watched anything. Like, that's how
That's
just
the most disappointing review.
Yeah. It's like there's like one visual I remember of this entire group standing together, and the killer, who is a female killer, by the way, which that's cool. It's it's different, and it looks like maybe she uses her sexuality to allure people. So that, I mean, it's got the same problems Dante and was it Bone Storm have.
Yeah.
And kind of the overall arching problem with the entire film stands for Parallel Monsters, was it?
Parallel Monsters is that middle one. Yeah.
The overall arching problem, I'd say it transcends into the extra that we didn't see as well. It seems like there was a good idea, but the execution is just kind of lacking in certain important areas.
It's such a shame, because like I feel like all of these could have been really good, but they're just not. Which is, that's it's just how I feel. Yeah, it's just how I feel about it. It sucks.
I think that's a great review, actually. It feels like this should be good, but it's just not.
Right. Like, I feel like if you wrote these down on paper and were like, hey, this is the idea for the skit, okay, I'm all about that, but then you see it and you're just like, oh God,
right. Like, just a book of treatments would suffice. You didn't have to make the movie, I guess.
Right, which is so disappointing. Yeah, it definitely, unfortunately, deserves that 34% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I I love these movies nonetheless. I mean, I'll be
Same.
honest with you, man. I've seen VHS Viral like 3 or 4 times now. Like, and I'll admit, like 2 times it was for like one was for this podcast, and like I watched it for like another video I did. So I was forced to watch it, but I've watched it twice on my own for my personal enjoyment. I like, nonetheless. I think even though I feel like the execution on all the skits and this entire movie in general isn't done all that well, I do feel like it's very creative, and you don't see that a lot in very popular horror movies nowadays.
It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's like it falls into the category for me as it's not well made, but it's fun. You know, it's guilty pleasure maybe, I guess, even though I don't like that term. That's kind of where it is for me.
I agree. I love this. Like, the reason I started off my whole podcast with like this franchise is because I love it so much. I think that some of the most creative, inventive ideas we've gotten in the horror universe in the past 10 years or so have come from this franchise, really. And that's a lot of, that's high praise, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I know we're shitting on this movie, but I do want to say, it's fun. It's a good time. I still recommend it. I recommend all the VHS movies to watch, just from creativity and ideas, concepts that are mildly fleshed out, especially in this film, to check out. It's worth the watch for sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Do you anything else you want to add to this podcast before we start wrapping things up, Bran?
No, I think we've kind of pretty much said everything that we can say about this movie. But I just would like to say that does it deserve its bottom of the barrel ranking? Yes. But is it fun? Fuck yes.
Yeah, I like that. That is a perfect note to end this podcast on, I feel. Now, I know this is a shorter podcast, but like we were talking about earlier, there was an entire skit that was cut from this movie. So it's what is the runtime of this thing, only like 81 minutes or something? It's a short movie, you know?
It's very short. And like I said earlier, even that extra that's cut out, it's like 3 minutes maybe?
What? Well, yeah, no wonder it was cut. It's like, what's even the point, you know?
Pretty much silence at that.
Yeah. Well, that's disappointing. I'm still excited to watch it just because it's like another VHS skit I've never seen. You know, I'm still down to check it out. Gonna be sick. But yeah, I just wanted to say one more time, make sure to check out Brand's channel, Bloody Breakdown with Brand. Go check it out on YouTube. Get this man to 2,000 subscribers. God damn it. That's what I say.
Appreciate that.
I'm watching. I just put your page up on my recommended channels, and I get to see like everyone's sub count every now and then. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this guy not at like 2,000 subscribers?
It's you know what? It's my own fault. It is my own fault. I go through these like whole ages of where I'll upload, and then I just vanish onto my other channel for like 6 months. I take responsibility for it, but I have been doing a lot of content lately, so I'll pat myself on the back there.
Hell yeah, man. Everything you put out is really good too. You always have like highest of quality too. I just want to say, like, I really like your videos, man. Make sure to subscribe to his page. And you know, I gotta put the shameless plug in there, man. I gotta say, subscribe to KillJoy Jig. This is literally going to my channel. I don't know why the hell I'm even saying this, but
fuck yeah. Subscribe.
Just keep hitting those red buttons. Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing with your life? Have you not subscribed yet?
Exactly.
What do you have, friends instead of horror movies? Fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. Come on. Friends are for nerds. But thank you all for listening to yet another crazy podcast with a very special guest. Make sure to follow me on my socials. All of that junk is in the description below. You know all that crap. I'm feeling just bummed out after this podcast. Not because of you, Brand, but just because this movie wasn't as good. I'm mildly frustrated. So we're gonna end things here. I'm very excited to talk about my favorite entry in this franchise next week, VHS 94. Brand, did you see that real quick before we end this?
Oh yes, I did, and I love it. I feel like a lot of people feel like about you hear people say, man, I really wish Scream 4 had been Scream 3. I really wish VHS 94 had been VHS Viral. That's all I'll say.
Yes, I 100% agree. I'm very excited to talk about that. It's the only VHS movie where I feel like all 4 of the skits are solid. Like, it is, all 4 of them are really, really good. I'm very excited to get into that next week. We don't know who the guest is going to be for that yet, so don't quote me on anything with that. But we're going to wrap this up. Thank you all again for listening, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.